Hello everybody, welcome back to Reading for Vocabulary. I'm Brian Stewart. Let's learn more about rocks in this lesson. We're on lesson 5, let's use a rock. But be careful when you use rocks, okay? Don't use rocks in the wrong way. But let's see how we can use rocks. We're going to focus on we use rocks in many ways. Okay, let's take a look at this subject. Of course, nowadays we don't really use rocks a lot, but people long ago, a long time ago, people long ago made tools with rocks because they didn't have metal. They couldn't go to the store and buy tools. They had to make tools with rocks. And you can see many different kinds of tools here, right? We'll talk about these different kinds of tools that they made using rocks. So let's take a look. Number 1, the sharp end of an arrow. The sharp end of an arrow. What do we call that part right there? That is the arrow head. Of course, we know what a head is, right? The head on our body. But think about an arrow, right? This is the arrow. This is the end, right? Like this is the end of my body, the front end, right? This is the end. So this is the head. Arrow head. Remember, arrow, this is the arrow here, right? This is the head. So the sharp end, it's very sharp end of an arrow is called arrowhead. Arrow, arrow, head. Put it together, arrowhead, arrowhead. Okay, let's move on. Number 2, what type of tool was this? A tool used for hitting nails, nails into walls, right? You use this, and of course it's called a hammer. A hammer is used to hit nails into walls. So if this is a hammer, this is my nail, right? Tuk, 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 tuk. I'm pounding it into the wall. Be careful using a hammer. Ow! You don't want to hit your finger, right? So the hammer is used for hitting nails into walls. Okay. Number 3, something that can help you to do what you want. Something that helps you do what you want. This boy here wants to drink milk. So he or she, I'm not sure boy or girl, needs something to help them. And this is the glass, right? So the glass is what? What can we say the glass is? Without the glass, trying to drink milk, you know, that's very sloppy, very messy. So the glass is useful. Useful. Okay? A glass is useful. A tool is useful. It can help us do what we want to do. It's useful. Number 4, do you know him? Of course you know him. He is very what? He's very famous, right? We know he's Tiger Woods, known by many people. Everybody knows Tiger Woods, right? He is very famous, okay? So if somebody is known by many people, that person is famous. Like sports stars, movie actors and actresses, singers, okay? These people are famous. Number 5, we were talking about tools, right? That's what we're talking about here, tool. These are different kinds of tools. Something that we use to build or to fix things. We use all these different kinds of tools. We can see paintbrush. Paintbrush helps us to fix things or to make things look nice. Here's our hammer, right? Before we were talking about a hammer, there's a hammer right there, right? These are pliers. I'm not going to do all of them, just a few of them, but pliers, right? What's this here? Cha in Korean, right? Cha, you say ruler, ruler. So there are many types of tools. These are all tools. Tools have many different types, many different names, many different uses. All these tools are very useful for doing what we want to do. 6, ooh, be careful. That could be very what? That could be very sharp, right? Able to cut easily. If you have a knife is another type of tool. A knife is a tool. Be careful with many tools, right? Don't use them in the wrong way. A knife is very sharp. It's able to cut something easily. So if you cut tomatoes or you cut meat, right? Your knife should be sharp. Be careful with a sharp knife. 7. This is another tool. It's an interesting tool. You use it with a hammer, tuck, 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 and you move it along wood, or you can move it along stone, and you can make the wood into a certain shape or the stone into a certain shape. What do we call this tool? We call this tool a chisel. Not chisel, don't say that. Chisel, okay? Ch, we have CH, ch, and SEL, sol. Chisel, chisel, okay? So it's two sounds, chisel, chisel, okay? So that's what we call this tool, used to shape, to make a wood or stone into different shapes. Okay, next, number 8. Ooh, be careful. She doesn't have pants on. Okay, sorry. Okay, this is a statue of a long time ago, right? I just said what it is. It's a statue. A statue is a rock. This isn't a person. It's a rock. It was made to look like a person. Wow, that's amazing. The person who made this statue is a really, really good artist. The person who made this statue used a chisel and a hammer to shape this rock into a shape that looks like a person. And we call that a statue. 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 Not achoo! Oh, bless you. Not that. Statue. Statue. Okay, so it's a statue. Okay, next one. Number 9. Ooh, what's going on here? Can you see this little boy or this little girl, right? It's hard to, you're looking, oh, there he is. I found him. To discover, to find somebody, to find something. Maybe this boy or girl is looking for something. Ah, yogita or chogita. I found it, right? You found it. Chogita, there it is, okay? Or yogita, here it is. I found it, okay? Be careful with find. Find is an irregular verb. It changes form. Find, found, found. Find, found, found. Can you find your books? Yes, I found my books. They are here. Okay, next one. 10. To send something through the air, right? This boy, what did he do with the basketball, right? What did he do? He's going to throw. He is throwing the basketball. To throw is to send something through the air. So if you have a ball, you have a rock, don't throw rocks at people or animals. You can throw rocks at trees or into ponds, but be careful. You can throw basketballs, right? Many sports, they throw the ball. Throw, of course, changes form. Throw, threw, thrown. Whew, okay, one more time. Throw the ball. I threw the ball. Have you thrown the ball? Okay, so throw, threw, thrown. Next one. 11. Oh, I just said this word, right? A small lake. A small lake. Small body of water. A small area of water. Not a puddle. Not a puddle. This is larger than a puddle. A puddle is very small. After it rains, you have maybe a little puddle of water here, but then the sun comes out and then the puddle goes away. This doesn't go away. This stays here. We call it a pond. But it's not a lake. A lake is bigger, right? You can go swimming in a lake. Don't go swimming in the pond. It's too small. And this pond is a little dirty, right? You shouldn't go swimming in a pond, right? You better to go swimming in a lake. It's bigger, maybe cleaner. I hope so. But ponds are smaller. Puddle, cheil chago, right? It's the smallest puddle. Then daume, pond. Then the biggest bigger is lake, then sea, then ocean, right? So many different words to describe areas of water. Okay, we're talking about a pond here, a pond. Okay. 12, wow, look at these. These are nice rocks. What do we call these? What's another word? Another word that means the same thing as a rock. We can say a stone. Now, of course, rocks and stones have many different shapes. This is just one shape. These stones, these rocks, are very smooth and flat. I really like to find these rocks, especially when I'm near a pond, because you can throw the rock and it jumps on the water, right? We call that to skip. Skip. Can you skip stones? Right? And we can say skipping stones, right? They are skipping stones. These are good skipping stones. You take them, you throw them on the water, it hits, bounces, it skips. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Wow, that's great. If you can make a stone skip 5 times, that's a really good throw, right? That's a really good throw. Usually maybe 2 or 3 times. Okay, let's continue. 3. What is this here? This is a deep round dish. There are many kinds of dishes, right? Sometimes you have a dish for your coffee, right? That's just a small dish. A bigger dish, you put your food on it, you eat off it, that's a plate. But if you have soup or stew, like ramen, right? You want to put it inside this. Don't put ramen on a plate, right? It'll go everywhere. A plate is flat. You want to put ramen into this kind of dish, which is called a bowl. A bowl, okay? So put your soup, your stew, your ramen into a bowl, okay? We saw this before, a tool used to cut things, right? When we talked about sharp, we saw another example. Of course, this is a knife. Be careful about the spelling. It's not knife, andeo. It's knife, knife. The K is silent. Shh. Don't say the K. It's just knife. But we spell it with a K. Knife. English is crazy. I'm sorry. Okay. Okay, 15. Oh, we saw the other part, right? When we talked about this, right? We talked about this part already. This, I'm not a good artist, I'm sorry. This is the arrow, right? Arrow. A weapon for shooting arrows. But now we're talking about this part, right? What do we call this? We call it a bow. Bow. B, 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 and O, O. Bow, bow. In fact, it's very common to say bow and arrows. That expression or that phrase is very oh, sorry, no S. Just bow and, because you only use one bow, you don't use many. Bow and arrows. But we say S because you have many arrows, right? You shoot them. So bow and arrows, or bow and arrow, right? So that's a very common expression because these two things go together. If you just have a bow, no arrow, what are you going to do? Hit somebody? Right? No, you need the arrow to go with the bow. Bow and arrow. That's the whole set. Okay, number 16. Smooth and even. That's a nice picture, right? We can say it's flat. And of course, we can say about this computer monitor or TV screen, many people will call them flat screens, right? A flat screen, because why? A long time ago, well, not a long time ago, maybe for you a long time ago, not so long for me, televisions were very fat, right? But now with new technology, televisions aren't fat anymore. They're not deep. They're flat, right? They're very skinny. But instead of saying skinny television, we say flat television or flat screen. It's a flat screen. Okay? So smooth and even, it's flat. Okay, those are our words. Let's take a look at the exercises for the words. Here, we want to complete each sentence with a word from the box. So we have many sentences. We have to complete the sentence with a word from the box. Let's review our words. First we have arrowhead. Arrowhead. Next one, useful. Useful. Next is sharp. Sharp. Next is tool. Tool. Hammer. Hammer. Famous. Famous. Statue. Statue. And chisel. Chisel. Okay, let's see how these words fit into the sentences. Number one, a beep is a rock shaped like a person. Remember, we saw that rock. Many people were looking at it. It was very old. She didn't have pants on. I made a joke about that, right? What is it? What kind of rock is shaped like a person out of these words? Well, here we look around. We see the answer right there. A statue is a rock shaped like a person. And remember, it takes a very good artist to shape a rock like a person. Number two, be careful. Joshimheo, right? Be careful. The knife is, what is it? If the knife is this, it can cut your skin very easily. So be careful. The knife is what? The knife is sharp. By the way, it's interesting. The opposite, pandero, of sharp would be what? We say it would be dull. Okay? So a knife can be dull. That means it won't cut your skin very easily, or it won't cut tomatoes, it won't cut meat. If you're trying to cut meat with a knife, it doesn't cut. This knife is dull. So you need to sharpen it. You can sharpen a knife, make it sharp. But be careful. The knife is sharp. It can cut meat, but it can also cut your skin very easily. Okay, number three. A stone knife is a stone knife? That means a stone that you use as a knife. So if you're using a rock or a stone as a knife, what is it? It's not a stone or rock anymore. It becomes what? What are you using it as? You're using it as a tool. A stone knife is a tool. So a knife made of stone or a rock that you use to cut something, that is now not just a rock or a stone, it's now a tool. Okay, so a tool is something that you use to get something done. Okay, next one. 4. You are beep if everyone knows you. So everybody knows your name, right? Everybody knows you. That means you are what? Okay, you are, of course, famous. You are famous if everyone knows you. Okay, number 5. Number 5 starts off, watch out. Watch out is like Joshimheo. Before we saw be careful, right? Be careful, watch out, they mean the same thing. But watch out with an exclamation mark means it's more urgent. Bali, watch out. Bali, Joshimheo, right? If you say, be careful with this knife, that means later on, be careful. But if you say, watch out, that means Chigum, watch out. Right now, be careful. Something's happening. Oh, something's falling. Watch out. A car is moving. Watch out, right? So watch out is like Joshimheo, but right now. Okay? Okay, so watch out. That beep is sharp. What can be sharp here? Well, there's a couple of things that can be sharp, but probably we're looking at maybe this one over here. Arrowhead, not arrowhead, arrowhead. That arrowhead is sharp. Watch out, right? Be careful if you're going to shoot the bow, because that arrowhead is sharp. Be careful. Number 6. Rocks can be used for many things. We can use rocks used for many things. If something can be used for many things, we can use it for many different things that we want to do. We can say it is useful. Rocks are useful. They can be used for many different things. Okay, number 7. Hit the nail with the what? You want to hit the nail with the, what do you use with a nail? Of course, you use a hammer with a nail. hit the nail with the hammer. Don't hit the thumb with the hammer. Hit the nail with the hammer, right? Be careful, Joshim Hale. Watch out if you're using a hammer, right? Don't hit your thumb, hit the nail. Hit the nail with the hammer. 8. A beep is a tool for shaping rocks. We talked about that, right? You use a hammer and you tick, 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 tick. This is the tool that we use to shape the rock, right? We use a hammer and we shape the rock that way. What do we use with a hammer for shaping rocks? We use a chisel. We use a chisel to shape rocks. Okay, well that wraps up the vocabulary section of the lecture. Let's take a short break. We'll come back and we'll look at a reading passage of how rocks are used. Don't go away. Hello and welcome back. Let's go over the reading passage for Let's Use a Rock. How are rocks used? Let's take a look. What do you do with the rocks you find? So this is a question. What do you do with the rocks you find? When you're walking around outside, oh, there's a rock. There's another rock. What do you do with them? Well, maybe, probably. You probably throw them into a pond or leave them on the ground. So usually people do two things. One, throw them into a pond. Before I was talking about the rocks that you use to skip, skipping stones. If you find a skipping stone, maybe you throw it into the pond, right? Boop, 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 and it goes into the pond. Or most people just, that's a rock, it's on the ground, it's dirty, right? Tigupta, not Tigupta, that's hot, but Torawa, right? That's dirty. Right? Torawayo. So that would be dirty. Leave them on the ground. Leave them there. Don't pick them up, right? So either you throw them or you leave them on the ground. Today, these days, rocks are not very useful to us. We don't have much use for rocks, right? We don't need rocks. Most people don't have rocks in their house, right? But a long time ago, they were very important. A long time ago, people didn't have stores. You couldn't go and buy tools, right? A long time ago, the only things around were rocks, right? People long ago made tools with rocks, okay? So they used those rocks for tools. They didn't leave them on the ground. We call tools made of rock stone tools. Stone tools. Of course, it's interesting to notice, this time period is called the Stone Age. The Stone Age, because human beings used stones. Today we live in the information age, right? Because we exchange information is our very important tool for us. But a long, long time ago, rocks were important to people. That's what they used for tools. That was the Stone Age. Okay? So lots of tools can be made using rocks. Did you know that? We don't use rocks anymore, so we forget about this, right? But lots of tools can be made using rocks. For example, hammers, bowls, and even knives. Did you know that? Rocks can be used for many things. We can use them as hammers. We can shape them to make bowls out of them, to hold water and things like that. We can even, with some sharp rocks like this one, we can use it as a knife to cut things. People made knives by hitting two rocks together until one was flat and sharp. So people did this. How did they do it? By ing. How do you do something? If you answer the question, how do they do it? You can use by plus verb ing. People made knives. How? By hitting. By hitting two rocks together, right? One rock will break and one will become flat and sharp. Like I said, this rock here, right? If you hit two rocks together, maybe it will break and you'll get a nice sharp edge on the rock and you can cut with that. Okay, so that's how they made knives. Okay, not very easy to live using rocks and not very convenient, but that's what people did a long, long time ago in the Stone Age. So hunters used rocks too. Hunters, right? Long time ago, you can't go to the store and buy some ground beef, right? And some tomatoes and you know, whatever you wanted to eat. People had to hunt. So hunters used rocks too. Long ago, people hunted with bows and arrows. These arrows had a sharp rock at the tip. The tip is the end. So we're talking about hunters. A long time ago, people, of course, were using bows and arrows. These arrows had a sharp rock at the tip of them. Okay? The sharp rock looked like this. Rocks were used as arrowheads. This is an arrowhead. This is also an arrowhead, but it's broken. Okay? Without rocks, it would have been much harder for people to hunt animals. It would have been. Okay? We use would have been because we're saying imaginary, without rocks. If there were no rocks. If there were no rocks. Yes, there were rocks. But imagine, if there were no rocks, it would have been. So we use would have been to talk about a situation that wasn't true in the past. Would have been. It would have been much harder for people to hunt animals. So we're just imagining in this statement. We are saying that with rocks, it's easy to hunt animals, or easier to hunt animals. But if there were no rocks, it would have been really, really hard. That's what this sentence says. So this sentence is about the fact that rocks were very useful. Next, rocks are also used to create art, right? So we use them as tools, we use them to hunt, but now we can see we can also use them to create art. Have you ever seen a stone statue before? A stone statue like this one? Oh, he's not wearing pants either. Oh, I'm sorry. Okay. Okay, sorry. Okay. Have you ever seen a stone statue before? Have you ever seen one? Did you ever go to a museum and have you seen stone statues? Probably in Chejido, you've seen the famous stone statues, right? So these are types of statues. People shape them as art. Stone statues of famous people are all over the world. Okay? All over the world. Of course, this is famous in Italy. In Greece, there are many statues. On Chejido, like I said, do you call those harubang, right? Harubang on Chejido. They're all over the world, everywhere. Using a hammer and chisel, you can make a rock look like a person. Okay? So people who use rocks, hammers and chisels, and they shape rocks to look like things, they're really good artists. Okay? And you can make them look like people. Like this one here. Very amazing. It looks exactly like a person. But this is thousands of years old. Very old, because rock is very strong. Okay, what else can we make with rocks? What else? We can make tools, we can make arrowheads, we can make statues. What else? What other things are there? We can make stone walls, we can make houses, we can make lots of other things, right? So two examples are stone walls and houses. A house made from a rock, wow, it's a really strong house, right? Try to think of some more on your own. So try to think of some other things that people can use rocks for. How can people use rocks as tools or to make different things? That's what the last sentence is asking you. Try to think of some things, other things that are made from rocks. Okay, let's go over the comprehension questions. This story is about what? So the whole story, what were we talking about, right? What are we talking about in the entire story? Are we talking about rare rocks? Be careful. Rare means unusual or not very common, like, for example, gold or diamonds, right? We talked about that in another lesson. But those are rare rocks, not very common to find those rocks, very difficult to find those rocks. We're not talking about rare rocks like gold or gems or diamonds in this lesson. We're talking about all rocks. So that's not right. Not rare rocks, just rocks. B, the many uses of rocks. Okay, well, B is another way, right? Because we talked about people using rocks for tools, hunters using rocks for arrowheads, artists using rocks for statues, and also other people using rocks for stone walls and homes. So we can see many uses of rocks. That's our right answer. This story is about the many uses of rocks. C, this story is about statues. Yeah, we talked about statues, but that was just one part of the story, not the whole story. D, stone walls. That was a very, very small part of the story, not the whole story. Remember, the whole story is about the many uses of rocks. Stone walls, statues, tools, arrowheads, many uses of rocks. That was the whole passage. Okay, number 2, you can make a statue with a beep and beep. So I've talked about this several times now, right? I've used these two instruments to like pretend I'm using these two tools to shape rock. What are these two things, right? The tuk 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 and the other thing that I use to shape the rock. What are they? What tools are they? Are they a bow and arrow? No, a bow and arrow is like this, right? And you use to hunt animals, not a bow and arrow. B, a knife and an arrowhead. A knife and an arrowhead. No, how can you use a knife and an arrowhead together? That's not right. That's incorrect. C, a tool and a rock. A tool, be careful because tool means all of these things. A tool is a hammer, it's a saw, it's a ruler, it's pliers, it's many things. And then a rock. That doesn't make sense, right? Hammer and chisel. There's the answer right there. Hammer and chisel. You can make a statue with a hammer and chisel. Hammer and chisel are very commonly used together, just like bow and arrow. Bow and arrow, hammer and chisel, because these tools go together. They are used together. But a hammer and a chisel are used to make a statue. So you can make a statue with a hammer and chisel. That's the correct answer. Okay, let's go on to number 3. Knives. Knives used to be. Used to be means a long time ago. Not now, but before, right? A long time ago, or before now. Knives used to be made by hitting two rocks together until one was beep and sharp. Remember, we talked about that. A long time ago, people used rocks. They hit the rocks together until one rock was what and sharp? Rough and sharp? No, we didn't say rough. Smaller and sharp? Well, when you hit a rock and it breaks, it does become smaller, but that's not what the passage said specifically. The passage specifically said you hit two rocks together until one becomes flat. That's C. C is the right answer. And sharp. But not harmful. Harmful, that doesn't fit in this sentence. So the right answer is C. Knives used to be made by hitting two rocks together until one was flat and sharp. That's the answer. Okay, flat and sharp. 4. Beep. Were used as arrowheads. What was used as arrowheads? What were used as arrowheads? So we have many different choices here. A, we have sharp rocks. Sharp rocks. A rock that can cut easily. A sharp rock. That sounds right, doesn't it? It is a sharp rock. Sharp rocks were used as arrowheads. They had to be sharp to go inside the animal's skin, to cut the animal's skin. Let's just look at B, expensive rocks. No, you don't want to use expensive rocks on your arrowhead because poop, then it's gone and it's expensive. You don't want to do that. So that's not right. B, big rocks. No, imagine. If you used a big rock, your arrow is not going to go anywhere. Smaller rocks were used. So not big rocks, that's funny, that's silly. Soft rocks. It's like you shoot your arrow, thunk, it bounces off the animal. It's too soft, right? So that's not correct either. The best answer, of course, that we're looking for is sharp rocks. Sharp rocks were used as arrowheads. That's the best answer. Okay. Now we have many rocks here. We have a lot of different rocks. What can we review? What can we say about rocks? Well, first of all, people long ago made tools with rocks. Nowadays, these days, we don't use rocks that much. Maybe we use rocks to throw into ponds, or we just leave them. Oh, that's a rock, yeah, I'll just leave it there. But long time ago, people made tools with rocks. Rocks were very important, and there's a lot of different tools that people made with rocks. What else can we say? Hunters used rocks. Those are some of the people who used rocks. Also, rocks are used to create art. So these are kind of three things we can say about rocks. One, that people made tools with rocks. Hunters made arrowheads from rocks. They used rocks to make arrowheads. And three, rocks are used to create art, statues. Artists would use a hammer and chisel to shape the rock and usually make those rocks look like people. And that was art, really amazing art. Okay, well that wraps up this lesson. I hope you've learned a lot of interesting things about rocks. Next time you're taking a walk and you see a rock, maybe, of course, you're going to leave it there. Your mom will be angry if you bring it home, but leave it there. But think about all the things that rocks were used for a long time ago. Okay, we'll see you next time. Take care.